Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to BRAP. It's great to be back. Well, I think a little echo here. Oh, hold on. Why am I hearing an echo? I don't know. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing an echo. Maybe you are, though. I don't know. It's here. I'm hearing an echo. I don't know why. All right. Can everyone hear me okay in the live chat? Let me see something here real quick. Using Streamlabs. Haven't used that in a long time. Let's see here. Let's see. Definitely have an echo. Yeah, I don't know why I have an echo. Hold on a sec here. We'll figure this out. All right, I think I figured it out now. Okay. Okay. I think you guys can hear me now. The echo should be gone now. All right, I think we're okay now. All right, Cypher Podak X says the echoes. All right, so welcome to BRAP, everyone. It is Wednesday night, August the 23rd. So this is kind of a very impromptu BRAP rant. I wasn't really anticipating doing a BRAP rant, but there was no BRAP last week because of spring break, and just a lot going on. Game related. We'll get to more game related stuff this Friday. We'll talk about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which the reviews came out today. Reviews look, just excellent. We'll talk about that. But I want to talk about WrestleMania because if you've been listening to the show for a long time, and by the way, please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Helps out the channel. Please retweet the link. Share the link on your favorite social media platform. Let everyone know that we're live and just drop a link here in the live chat. We appreciate the support as always. And actually, I need to drop the link here in Discord as well. Let people know that we are live because this is very impromptu. Again, wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do a BRAP rant today because work's been just crazy busy. Anyhow, Nintendo pre-orders tomorrow. 11. I said 11 o'clock. Let me see. When does my local GameStop open up? Yeah, tomorrow, April 24th. Hopefully, I can get my pre-order in. I do have to take my truck to get some work done, so hopefully it's done before the GameStop opens, and I get to get my pre-order in. But if you're going to pre-order the Nintendo Switch 2, let me know in the live chat. It's tomorrow. I expect pre-orders to be sold out. I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to sell well at launch. There's been a lot of debate, conversation. Well, is it going to do as well as the Nintendo Switch? Maybe not. I think 100. I forget. I think was it a Switch at 150 million. That's a tall order. But maybe, who knows, right? Time will tell if this generation's anything to go by in terms of how long the generation will last for the Nintendo Switch. 2, you're probably looking at that 78-year life cycle for the Nintendo Switch 2, and I would imagine probably given that time frame would probably go over 100 million. I think maybe not 150, but probably over 100 million. Yeah, so Chrono Rig says, BRAP, I'm getting the Switch 2 and Pro Controller bundle at Best Buy. Nice. Did I say August 23rd? I meant April 23rd. I meant April 23rd. I don't know why I said August. Also, playoff hockey going on right now. My Washington Capitals are playing the Montreal Canadiens, the Habs. They're up 2-1 at the start of the third period. Hopefully, the Caps hold on to the lead here and don't have to go into OT like they did on Monday night. Take a commanding, well, I should say not commanding, but 2-0 lead. Hopefully that happens. Commanding would be up 3-0, but we'll see. Playoff hockey is great, by the way. Favorite time of the year, playoff hockey. Love playoff hockey. It's just great. Anyhow, but yeah, so tomorrow switch orders go live. Hopefully everyone gets your switch orders. And I will not be on Crossfire tomorrow. Crossfire is coming back tomorrow. And fortunately, I won't be on the Crossfire podcast. Quarterback says, Switch 2 is a hard pass for me, but shout out to the people getting one. Hope everyone who wants one gets one. Yeah, so all right, let's talk Expedition. Where's Expedition here? Nope, no, that's not it. All right, here we go. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This could maybe be the first. This will probably be in conversation for Game of the Year, I would imagine. It currently sits at a 92 Metacritic. It's based on 55 critic reviews. And typically you start getting to the 90s. I mean, that's typically a really good game. Chronorix says, BRAP, I don't watch wrestling, but I did see the clip of Joe Hendry all over TikTok. A lot of people go crazy for that. Yeah, I see Joe Hendry is pretty popular. It's something to think about. I'll get into this. I think as relates to booking or creating moments now in wrestling. It's much different than when I was growing up, and those moments are for things that you just mentioned, social media. Well, let's go back to Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and I did make a tweet. I did tweet something out on X today.
We are smaller than an Aaron Rodgers family reunion.
Hold on a sec here. I said, because I will say this. I think, because Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is going to be in Game Pass, day and date. And it's a big get. And I think really, if you look at what they've been putting into Game Pass, South of Midnight, which I'm playing a little bit over right now, which I'm enjoying. Doom's coming out, the next Doom, which you got to imagine, based on the pedigree of that franchise, is probably going to be a good game. The Oblivion remaster, or remake, or whatever you want to call it, is in Game Pass, and now you have Expedition. You have Clair Obscur Expedition 33 now. And so I think that this is the kind of cadence of releases that I wanted to see in Game Pass. Now, that probably another conversation whether or not they can keep that cadence of games in Game Pass on a quarterly basis at least. But the measuring stick for me with Game Pass has always been, are they going to release enough games that I want to play? I would imagine that's probably the case for everyone. That's really going to keep me engaged in the subscription service, and they've been doing that so far. And so I said this today on Twitter. I said if Game Pass can maintain a cadence of releases, entries into the service that it has recently, then it will unequivocally offer the best value in gaming. And of course, people are saying that value is subjective, and I don't disagree with that. Value is subjective. But I would argue that the same people that I would argue that that applies to even how people view PlayStation first party. Often the argument for PlayStation, the PlayStation console is, oh, well, best first party. You get, Last of Us, you get the Naughty Dog stuff, you get their first party, great games, great third party exclusive support, etc., etc. But the idea of value and how people perceive value for that platform applies in the same way. It being subjective is what I'm saying. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can maintain this cadence of releases and quality release. And I say quality, and I understand that the subjective piece. I think what I was kind of more, and I probably didn't flesh this out enough. What I'm saying is Game Pass, the cadence release, just you look at like Clair Expedition 33 or Clair Obscur Expedition 33, great Metacritic rating, critically acclaimed. Probably going to be, would it surprise me, was in the conversation of Game of the Year. South of Midnight, which I think was about 79 or 80 Metacritic, still a good game. You have Oblivion Remake. You have you're going to have Doom, as I mentioned. Doom the Dark Ages, May 15th. I think it's just, I think this is kind of, again, I'll say this again, this is what I wanted to see with Game Pass. So, it's going to be interesting. It's really going to be interesting to see if they can. Sorry, I'm a little distracted here and watching I'm trying to podcast and watch a Caps game, which is probably could be difficult for me to do. But it's just going to be interesting to see if they can keep that cadence. I would be happy if they released 2 games that I want to play a quarter, or 1 game. I would say 1 or 2 games a quarter that I want to play on Game Pass. I'd be happy with that. Corey Mass says, I prefer to own my own games. That's fair. That's fair if you prefer to own your own games. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I mean, I think if they can continue releasing games that are critically acclaimed, I think there's something to be said for that in Game Pass. It's a subscription service to have games that are critically acclaimed, highly rated. I think there's something to be said for that. So we're going to go to the so would it be better to spend $20+ a month for an unforeseeable amount of time, or pay for the game you will commit to? I think it depends on the consumer, Brian. Because especially like some of the first party stuff is going to be in there for a long time. I don't know how long Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is going to be, but anything first party is going to be in that service for a long time. So I look at it as, if I'm planning to play 4 games in the Game Pass that are going to be in Game Pass, then it's then for me that's more. I see more value in that than paying $60 or $70 a pop. And then the service is pretty much kind of paying for itself. But that's me. I mean, every consumer is going to be different. Everyone's going to look at the optics of Game Pass is going to be different based on every and based on every consumer. Not every consumer is going to think the way I do, or value, or look at Game Pass the way I do. Some people are going to say, you know what? No, I'm only going to buy 2 games a year, so Game Pass doesn't make sense for me. Yeah, Froggy T writes that wrong. You basically don't own your own games unless you buy them from COG. I mean, from GOG. Yeah, you basically you purchase a license, a software license. Which it's kind of been an old debate. We've never really owned games. We've owned the license to games, which is why I think why developers didn't like the trade-in model, or how GameSpot or GameStop, I should say, would allow the trading of games. They didn't like that because you technically didn't own the game. You owned a license to access the game. That's another conversation, though. All right, so go back to Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Trying to go to some of the more. There we go. VG247 gave the game 100. They say art is all about eliciting an emotional reaction. If you could do that, all the effort expended in creating it was worth it. I think Clair Obscur does that with aplomb. If you've ever loved role-playing games, you owe it to yourself to play this. It has the capacity to touch you. Okay. The infamous Survivor website gave it a 95. Here we go. IGN says, wearing its inspirations on its sleeve, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 paints itself into the pantheon of great RPGs with a brilliant combat system and a gripping, harrowing story. Oh, I love that. Paints itself into the pantheon of great RPGs with a brilliant combat system and a gripping, harrowing story. It sounds like right up my alley. And I will be playing it for quote unquote free on Game Pass. Big get for. I mean, this is a great get for Game Pass. Yeah, Brian, I don't disagree. I think we're going to see this game. And let me know what you guys think of the live chat. And for those who catch the show later on, let me know what you think in the comment section. But I think this is going to be in the conversation for Game of the Year. Pushcore says, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of the most refreshing and original RPGs in years. Love hearing that. Even if it's not immediately obvious from the outside looking in. The intriguing setup expands to provide an engrossing, excellent narrative with lovable and charismatic characters. The exemplary combat goes above and beyond its turn-based traditions, with flashy fights and new ways to damage. This is the kind of experience that proves there's still so much potential creativity in the bigger budget video game space. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is simply sublime. I mean, this is just I'm loving the reviews here when I'm reading. So we have IGN saying that it paints itself into the pantheon of great RPGs with this brilliant combat system and a gripping, harrowing story. And then we have Push Square saying that it's a simply sublime experience. That it's the kind of experience that proves there's still so much potential creativity in bigger budget video game space. This is great. Yes, but Corey, you don't actually own the game. You own the license. And that license can be revoked at any time. Nate says, I know how to pick them. Pre-ordered it since December last year. Yeah, that's I agree with you, Froggy. That's my point, that they can revoke that license and that download a game anytime. The publisher can do that. This conversation goes back years. I remember having this conversation a while back and people were like, "No, you actually own the games." No, you actually physically when you are purchasing the license to access that game, the developer or publisher can revoke that license, revoke your access to that game at any point. Anonymous Boss says, "Are you getting the Switch 2, BRAP? Trying to tomorrow." All right, let me read some of these other reviews here. Game Informer gave it a 90. I don't think I read the review scores for Push Square and IGN. IGN and Push Square both gave the game a 90. Game Informer gave it a 90. Game Informer says, "What I admire the most about Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is how firmly it embraces a familiar, if currently rare genre, big budget, artistically expressive turn-based RPGs, but does so without falling to any of its traps. The adventure isn't overlong, which is great. You don't spend more time than necessary fighting. The world, art, and narrative are unique, but it makes me nostalgic for a game I remember from the past. It's as though the developer, Sandfall Interactive, big shout out to Sandfall Interactive, managed to make a classic RPG with only the good parts. I'm sad in a way to have concluded the journey, but the adventure to pursue the paintress will linger with me for some time." Games Radar gave it a 90. They said, "Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is an outstanding visionary debut from Sandfall Interactive, which isn't merely a love letter to JRPG, but builds on its traditions with a distinctly French identity, making for one of the most exciting and rewarding action and turn-based hybrid battle systems ever devised, while putting you through the emotional ringer." Oh, I love this. I'm loving this. "This is an old-school feeling JRPG as dynamic as Persona, but with parry-filled battles as hard-won as Sekiro." Whoa, okay. That is interesting. I cannot wait to play this game now. Actually, Rob Son, that is not entirely true. They can revoke it easily because we're now connected to the internet. Yes, they can, and I've talked to developers about this, Rob. They can revoke the license. It's easier. It's easier than what probably most people realize. Is it pre-order in 3 hours? I don't know. When is? Let me see something here. You've piqued my interest here. Yeah, pre-orders kick off November 20. So maybe at midnight, but I am I was going to go to my local GameStop and try to pre-order it in person. And my local GameStop opens at opens at 12 o'clock tomorrow. Corey, that's not what that's not what a developer has said to me about the license. That they can revoke the license after you've downloaded it. They can actually revoke the access to it. Okay. Innate says pre-order. So Innate, what about pre-orders in person? Because I'm sure each store is going to allocate. I got to talk to Forte. I'm sure because I'm going to try to do it in person tomorrow. I'm not staying. I'm too old to stay up till midnight. Let's see here. I'm going to message Forte. Yeah, Corey. So that's my understanding is that when you try to access that game on a hard drive to play it, that being able to play that game will be blocked. It's kind of how it was explained to me. Like you wouldn't be able to play it. So like once you try to fire that game up again, even though it's downloaded on your hard drive, that license that it gives you access to play the game would be revoked, which wouldn't allow the game to be playable. That's how it was explained to me by a developer. Croderick saying, from what I'm seeing on Twitter, most GameStops will have about 60 to 40, 60 switches. That's a lot. Yeah, and Corey, all that stuff's in the EULA, by the way. When you download the game. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, like older games, yeah, they probably don't require that online check-in. But I don't know. That's what I was told. My point is that you don't own the intellectual property; you just own the license to access it. That's what you're paying for. That's my point. Yeah, my GameStop at 8 doesn't open till 12 o'clock. All right, let's see here. Washington Post giving it 88. Clair Expedition 33 is a must-play for anyone who appreciates turn-based RPGs, and it's an immediate entry to the upper echelons of the genre. Woo, love that. All right, so I think this game's going to be in conversation for Game of the Year. All right, let's let's see here. WrestleMania 41. Now, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you probably know that I'm a big wrestling fan. Enjoy watching WWE, TNA, AEW. WrestleMania 41. So a lot of the, I think, at least from what I've seen, some of the reactions online, social media, seems to be a bit mixed. And I will say this: I do think WrestleMania 40 was the better WrestleMania, the one in Philadelphia last year. WrestleMania 40, I think, what was great about that WrestleMania was that they I mean, it was just this perfect. It really. I thought for many years the Bloodline story was great. And I thought the Bloodline was probably one of the best factions in professional wrestling in many years. And Roman Reigns kind of having a chokehold on the titles, and then the story with Cody coming back, and then wanting to win a WWE championship, something his dad didn't do. The great Dusty Rhodes. And then losing in the previous WrestleMania, and then just coming back and just completing that story to win the championship, I thought was fantastic. And even that match, that final match on Sunday, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes of WrestleMania 40, you saw The Rock made his appearance. The Rock was involved in the storyline. He made an appearance. The Undertaker made an appearance. It was just a great storytelling, great execution. And I felt like with this particular main event with Cody Rhodes, John Cena, it just didn't have that. One of the criticisms, and I don't necessarily disagree with this, is that The Rock, who started this rivalry, if you will, of John Cena turning heel and him kind of giving that cut-off gesture to his throat, that slitting of the throat gesture. So Shavana says, too bad. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the chat here. Shivansu Prasad with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, sucks that Expedition 33 hype was overshadowed by Oblivion. I mean, for me, it wasn't. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to gauge that, really. I mean, I can't. The only thing I'd say is for me, at least, that I don't think I'm more excited about Expedition 33. And I think you're going to, and I just think based on the reviews that we're seeing, and it being talked about quite a bit, I'm seeing it more discussed on social media and on gaming podcasts than I am the Oblivion remaster. So I'm not so sure that Oblivion is stolen the limelight, if you will, from Expedition 33, that it's overshadowed that game because of the praise, the critical praise of this game. And just some of the chatter and some of the YouTube videos and commentary that I've seen about Expedition 33, and so I don't know if it's overshadowed it. Go back to WrestleMania. So I just thought WrestleMania 40 was the better, had the better main event, and this time it just. It just didn't hit. I wasn't a fan of Cena winning the championship, beating, especially with The Rock not being there. Like, okay, why was The Rock not there? He was part of the story, unless they plan on some kind of Rock Cody Rhodes showdown at a later date. But the ending just fell flat to me. I just didn't. But I just don't. I don't see. I don't see. I just don't see. I just really didn't care about that outcome. It just fell flat for me. I did think the main event on Saturday night was much better. CM Punk Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. To me, that was the better main event. Paul Heyman betraying Reigns and allying with Seth Rollins was interesting, and then they follow that up with Monday Night Raw with you see Braun Breaker in the mix with Seth Rollins, and so this kind of reminds me, if you've been a professional wrestling fan like I am for over 3 decades, you may remember Paulie. I almost called him Paulie Dangerously because that's what he went under. But Paul Heyman and the Dangerous Alliance back in the WCW days, NWA WCW days. This kind of reminds me of maybe a new version of the Dangerous Alliance, but to me that was the highlight of the main events of WrestleMania. Just that Seth Rollins, that 3-way match between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Roman Reigns, and I felt like that Paul Heyman turning was a great way to really to get that story, really get, I think, the fans engaged in this particular storyline between these 3 individuals, because we know that if you go back a decade ago, Paul Heyman was a big advocate, manager of CM Punk, and now you have and then obviously was there with Roman Reigns as the wise man. So yeah, just a lot of the turning, if you will, and the way he did it was awesome. So I really enjoyed that main event. I thought it was great storytelling. All right, the Caps are 37 seconds left. They're up by 1. The Canadians have pulled out their goalie, so the Canadians do have a man advantage right now with 25 seconds left in the game. Sorry, I'm going to have to watch the last 25 seconds here and see. Hopefully the Caps could clear the puck and get out of their zone. All right, 13 seconds left. 10 seconds left. You guys are probably like, okay, BRAP, enough with the hockey stuff. All right, the Caps just scored on an empty net. That's game over. Caps are up 2-0. All right, game over. All right. So yeah, I thought I did not like the Cena Rhodes match. I like, why? Like, why would you? I don't understand having Cody lose to John Cena. I don't get it. I would have thought that Cena would have put him over, being the veteran. I don't care for this is just my personal opinion. I don't care for the older wrestlers like Cena to hold titles. Like, why? Let some of the younger guys, let Cody Rhodes build his legacy. And I thought it made Cody look kind of weak. The match wasn't good. There's Cena had some ring rust, clearly, if you watch the match, if you keep up with wrestling. I just didn't care for the outcome. It's like, why? I will say this though. They followed up Cena winning the title on Raw with Randy Orton coming back in and hitting him with an RKO. Which, obviously I think it's going to set up a matchup between John Cena and Randy Orton at Backlash next month, but that's not necessarily. I think that's a nice nostalgia moment, a nice quick reaction moment, but it's not a storyline that I particularly care for. But I will say this. Here were some of the highs for me at WrestleMania 41. Jey Uso beating Gunther. That was great. World champion. I'm actually surprised it took this long for him to get the championship. I thought the way the fans were reacting to him every time he comes out, I thought was great. He's always gotten great fan reaction every time he comes out. So he beats Gunther. The Seth Rollins victory, talked about that. I think that sets up a great storyline now with what I'm going to call the Dangerous Alliance 2.0. Great to see, by the way, Braun Breaker. I was totally surprised, but great to see Braun Breaker, younger. If those who knew, if you know who Braun Breaker, he's the son of Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner's his uncle. Braun, I think, is, hey, look, he's got that wrestling pedigree, his family background, and I think he's going to be a hell of a professional wrestler. And I think aligning with Seth Rollins is going to rub off positively for him, give him more exposure. He's going to learn, obviously, a lot from Seth and Paul Heyman in terms of the business, but I thought that was really cool. Obviously, I think that's going to set up probably a tag team match between probably, it wouldn't surprise me, and they probably will play this off as something they don't want to do, but Roman Reigns teaming up with CM Punk, and that's going to be interesting, that dynamic and how they flesh that story up. You got to imagine those two aren't going to want to wrestle together. They're not going to want to tag, but they probably will, just because they both have an axe to grind with Paul Heyman. And what I'm calling the Dangerous Alliance 2.0. So it's going to be interesting to see. And then Becky Lynch turned heel, by the way. So it's going to be interesting to see if she is part of this new faction that Paul Heyman has. Paul Heyman did have, during the Dangerous Alliance, had Medusa as one of his members of that particular faction. So, I mean, to me, it makes sense. Why not have Becky Lynch join that faction? Everyone knows that she's married to Seth Rollins. I think it just kind of makes sense to have those two teamed up together in the same faction. But I do think at Backlash we see Roman Reigns, CM Punk team up and have a match against Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. But I think I wouldn't surprise me to see some kind of story arc branch off of that, where Roman Reigns and maybe CM Punk have issues teaming up. The New Day captured tag team championships. That was kind of cool to see. I didn't really, the Jade Cargill match I do really care for. Yeah, she showed her power. She buried Naomi. I thought the Tiffany Stratton Charlotte Flair match was pretty good. I did actually enjoy that. And again, that's a situation where you have the veteran putting over someone who's a little bit younger in their career. I thought that was a good match. But I will say, I thought WrestleMania, there were times where the energy dipped. The pacing seemed a bit off at times. Segments felt a little bit less impactful compared to the year before. Again, I think that Cody match is just underwhelming, and I just think they make Cody look weak as the babyface. And I get it. Like, you want the heel to win, to catch some heat, because eventually you want to bring people back. That's like the old wrestling thing, right? Let the heels win, let the heel keep winning. You just keep bringing people back, because eventually the heel's going to lose, so people are going to want to see that heel lose and let the babyface win one. But I just didn't care for it. And maybe this is their way of putting Cena over as the GOAT, because he now has eclipsed Ric Flair as having the most title reigns in professional wrestling history. He has 17 compared to Ric Flair's 16. But I don't know. I just didn't. I think if they would have had The Rock come out instead of, and I understand why they had Travis Scott come out, right? Again, another social media moment, right? And the following that Travis Scott has on social media too, but the impact of that. But I just don't think that. I just thought, like, it just puzzled me. Like, why not have The Rock there? I mean, he's clearly he's part of the storyline. He's the one who, if you guys watched, I think it was Raw, where, or was it one of the pay-per-views? I don't remember, where Cody Rhodes turns his back to John Cena, or turns back to The Rock, and John Cena's looking at The Rock, and The Rock kind of gives him that throat cut gesture, and it's like, and The Rock and Cody have had this thing now for a while, where the Cody, The Rock's like, I want to own your soul, but then he doesn't make an appearance at WrestleMania, and that's actually been one of the more frequent complaints that I've seen about the storyline and how they executed the finish at WrestleMania between Cody and Cena, was that, hey, there was no Rock. It doesn't make any sense. But I will say this: the Raw follow up to WrestleMania was actually pretty good. You know, seeing Randy Orton give John Cena the RKO and kind of sneak attacking him, I thought was great. Because you're already coming into this as a fan. If you're not happy with the outcome, you're probably like, F Cena. And then you see Randy Orton come out, give him an RKO. It's like, oh, that's great. But again, I can't say that I want to see a Cena and Randy Orton match at Backlash. That's probably going to happen, but I can't say that I'm excited to see that. Let me go grab a super chat here. Shivensu Prasad says, with the $2 super chat thing, he says, but casuals are missing out on Expedition 33 because of it. I mean, I guess, Shivatsu, I would ask you, how are you, I guess my question to you is, how are you arriving to that conclusion? Like, what are you seeing out there that leads you to believe that casuals are missing out on Expedition 33 because of the release of Oblivion? I mean, is it possible that Oblivion may not carry the same weight as it did almost 20 years ago? I mean, let's think about that for a second. I mean, no one is, I would never argue that Oblivion as a game didn't have an impact, a tremendous impact on the industry, and was groundbreaking. Some people would argue it was groundbreaking for the wrong reasons. Horse armor that you had to pay for. But I'm also sure that casuals are missing out on Expedition 33 because of a remaster. Don't get me wrong, of a great game. But I would ask you, how are you qualifying that? Like what are you seeing out there that leads you to believe that casuals are missing out on this? I think that's a little bit of a reach, if you will, to arrive at that conclusion. Corey Mass said, I rolled credits on Kazan this weekend. Yeah, I played the demo. I really enjoy the demo. So it's going to be interesting to see how WWE reintroduces Cody Rhodes back into the mix of things. The whole thing, it was interesting because, when Cody had the opportunity to have the belt, use the belt against John Cena to win, I remember something Michael Cole said was kind of interesting. He said something to the effect like, now Cody has to decide whether he wants to be the good guy or bad guy. And it's like, and he dropped the belt. And that's the point where I thought that made him look a little weak. I get being the babyface, but come on, because it's almost, because if you do that, you know what's going to happen next. Oh God, Cody's not going to use the belt, but Cena is, and that's what happened. But I thought it was kind of interesting that he mentioned that, and I thought if they bring back Cody on Raw and Cody talks about, look, like I was the bad guy, and maybe this works out, maybe we all forget about this if he comes back, Cody Rhodes. And while he might be the babyface, starts doing things that the quote unquote good guy wouldn't do. If he comes back and he says, "Look, I tried being the good guy, that didn't work out. I didn't cheat to win. That cost me the title." If he comes back and starts cheating a little bit, why not? But what's interesting, though, I will say that what's interesting was that the fans did cheer Cena winning. Shivatsu says, BRAP only come to that conclusion because I don't see the casual crowd talking about it. Well, where's the cat? Okay, so I guess my question to you is, what casual crowd? Who are these casuals that you're referring to? Your friends? People on Twitter? Like I don't know what you mean by casual crowd. Like who are you talking to? Kevin Max's heel turn. Well, and that's the thing. Like, but then why? But why turn him heel then? Because you have to imagine he's going to want to exact some kind of revenge against Cena, unless based on the fan reaction, because some people were chanting "thank you" to Cena. Unless like people are like, unless people really start supporting Cena despite him being a heel, Cody comes back, starts cheating or using dirty tactics, if you will, and then the fans turn on Cody, then yeah, maybe the heel turn happens then. That would make sense to me. But I don't like the idea of an older, and people are like, Brad, what do you have against old wrestlers? I just don't care for Cena being like the guy's. Look, he's held the title 16 times. Does he need to have his 17th reign? Let Cody have his light or his moment in the spotlight. I know he did last year. Let him have it again. Or if you're going to have him lose, introduce The Rock, who started all this. Because there's that unresolved story arc, that issue that they had from the last WrestleMania. Remember The Rock slapped him. Okay, so you're basing off college students? I mean, I guess. If that's the case, and they're not talking about, if they're playing most of these COD and sports games, Shivanshu, then they're not even talking about, Oblivion remaster. My point is, it's like I'm careful, and I think we should be careful of making those kinds of proclamations that, oh well, I don't hear any casuals talk about it. Well, I mean, what, like two people, or people who play sports games? I mean, that game, people who play COD or sports game mostly, or play sports games mostly. Most of them aren't going to be interested in games like Oblivion or Expedition 33. They're just not. It's a different type of consumer. We always talk about it on this show. Matt Piscatella, by the way, and for those of you, we talked about this on this show. Matt Piscatella did a great market breakdown on consumers in the gaming industry, and he said something to the effect like, I think it's like 8% of gamers buy more than 3 games a year, and I think he said like maybe a third of game. I'd have to go back. The numbers I'm spouting out right now could be incorrect, but I would encourage everyone to Google Matt Piscatella's breakdown of consumers. Yeah, I don't put much faith or much stock into Twitter either, Siobhan. So I just don't, because Twitter is a small, very small sample size of the gaming community, and that's even further amplified by Matt Piscatella's breakdown of the actual consumer in the gaming space. And I think he said that like 33% or a third of video game consumers like don't even buy a game in a year. Again, that number could be wrong. I would encourage, and I'm frankly, I just don't want to take the time to Google it, but I would encourage everyone to Google it. Matt Piscatella and like consumer breakdown of or consumer buying habits of the video game industry, and you'll be surprised how it's a very small percentage, like single digits, that actually buy 2 or 3 games a year. Like it was eye-opening to hear Matt, because he shared this on a podcast. I forget which podcast it was, but it was eye-opening. I was shocked. I was like, wow. So back to WrestleMania. The only thing I could think of in terms of Cody Rhodes too is that he probably you got to imagine John Cena's final year, his final tour. I think he said this is his final year, whatever. I'm thinking that Cody probably is going to, and I could be wrong, but I think he's probably going to be away from action for a little bit. And maybe he makes his return at another pay-per-view or Monday Night Raw. Maybe after Backlash, right? After the, because you got to imagine on based on what happened Monday, that that it's going to be Randy Orton and John Cena at Backlash. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I've thought for the past 3 years or so that the WWE's really been firing on all cylinders in terms of storytelling, character development. I just don't like. I think kind of pushing some of the newer talent. I just didn't like the Cena winning the championship. Let Cody have his moment in the spotlight, unless he comes back. And for me, the only way that, what would be great is him knocking, and maybe this is a way to solidify his, and maybe the long-term plan is we're going to allow Cena to win. And we're going to build him up as the GOAT, the guy that's won the most championships, right? Eclipse Ric Flair, right? And then maybe Cody coming back and beating him and knocking him off his pedestal and building Cody up as the guy that beat the GOAT. I don't know. I'll tell you what, I love the live chat. I'm here talking about professional wrestling and everyone's still talking about video games. Which, I mean, makes sense. This is a primarily video game podcast, so. All right, well, Expedition 33 comes out tomorrow. Look at that. We have Doom, The Dark Ages, May 13th. That's right around the corner. All right, so I'm definitely going to be playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 this weekend. Definitely looking forward to it. Yeah, gaming's great right now. There's just a lot of great. This has been a good year, I think, so far for games. I think. And then we have announcement of Ghost of Tsushima Yote, which is coming out in October. It's great that we got a release date. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, this is just a great year for gaming. Thank you, Robson. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support. All right, everyone. So, listen, we're going to be back on Friday night, regular schedule BRAP, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back this Friday, we're going to be talking about Expedition 33. I don't know how much time I'll be able to get into, how much time I'll get with the game prior to the show on Friday, but we'll be talking about that. And there's some other topics we'll be discussing as well. So I do want to thank everyone for coming out. October 2nd, Ghosts of GOTY. Really, again, looking forward to that. But yeah, we'll be back Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll let everyone know if I was able to secure a Nintendo Switch 2. I've not heard back from Forte, by the way. I text Forte 35 minutes ago and silence. So, all right, everyone, do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Consider hitting the bell notification, subscribing, or I should say consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. I got that backwards. And we'll be back this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll have the panel here, some guests, and look forward to seeing everyone back in the live chat. And thank you, everyone, for watching the show as always. We'll catch you back on Friday night again at 8 p.m. This Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So until then, we'll see you next time.